What about the positives? What would you say positives working in the Middle East?
Where do we start, James?
The weather.
I like that you're starting with. I like that we're starting with the positives, just to let the audience know we are coming on to the challenges, but we're deciding to talk about the positives first. I mean, for myself, it was firstly coming from the UK was for better weather, even though it is quite warm here in the summer. During my career in the UK, I'd met so many people and friends who had UK wasn't their home. They'd come from America, they'd come from Australia, Europe, different parts of the world, and they seemed to just have such a good time interacting with different cultures, a different way of living that they'd been brought up with. So for my wife and I, coming to the Middle East was coming to something different, and especially in the UAE, there's such a big mixture of people from all over the world. So you get brought into all of their experiences, not just from a personal level, but also from a work-related level. Doing projects in different challenging environments is really enriching and gives you different design ideas on how to, get over difficult tasks or challenges. Designing to different climatic conditions, as an example. So that's a positive from a work aspect. Obviously, people are aware that there's a tax-free environment. There are some taxes. I'd say generally, cost of living can be a little bit higher. But again, it does depend on. We'll talk about that on a sort of separate aspect. But one of the big positives for me is, despite the slightly longer hours that we all do work here, is that on your weekends, you've got the ability to feel like you're on holiday, and you can enjoy a wide range of activities. And the last sort of 8 years I've been here, the amount of different sort of leisure activities that are possible has increased significantly. And just driving an hour outside of Dubai, which is a sort of big skyscraper city on the beach, you actually come to sort of a mountainous area near Hatta. And you can go trekking. There's waterfalls, wadis, which flood during different times of the year. It's a completely different landscape. So for those of you who enjoy the outdoors, there's amazing cycling tracks. The Crown Prince is an avid cycler. There's huge cycling tracks in the deserts, huge leisure complexes for swimming, surfing as well, kiteboarding, skydiving. I know a few friends who are avid skydivers. Yeah, I've got friends.
You should give it a go. It's brilliant.
It's supposed to be the best place in the world to skydive is Dubai because really of what you can see. Yeah.
You should work for the tourist board.
I've had to try and sell it to my friends so many times, and when people come to visit, they say, "Well, what can we do in Dubai except for sit on the beach and go to Dubai more?" So we've got a nice list of prepared activities to which we never get through. So.
No, exactly. I think John's done kind of the the personal and the social one, but I think from professional, like one of the major benefits from a career perspective, it's just the size of projects. We mentioned it already, but when I was in the UK, you're working on small to medium projects. I knew if I was going to develop quickly, I needed to work on large scale projects that would challenge me technically. If you look at Dubai back then, 9 years ago when I was thinking of coming out, Burj Khalifa, Palm Jumeirah, Dubai Mall, they were continuing to kind of develop these huge schemes. I think, my first 3 or 4 projects were like high-rise towers. I was kind of experienced aspects of design that I hadn't done in the UK. Sustainable targets that probably don't get mentioned as much as they should do. We were doing kind of LEED platinum buildings, and I think one thing I would say that is different to the UK is that you're given, more responsibility, as soon as you kind of land, you're empowered to kind of take projects on, to do roles you've never done, for example, I was doing like design management, lead MEP, 1 or 2 years into kind of my, time in Dubai. But I do feel that, what the Middle East does, which is positive, it does give people like a huge platform to really accelerate their careers. I firmly believe that if I hadn't, moved to, if I think I've developed quicker in the Middle East, than what I would have done if I stayed in the UK. And I think, I think all of us on this call, have got some, great projects on our CV just purely because we moved to the Middle East and got that experience.
Yeah.
And how many times has everybody at the call actually thought, right, it must be this time that Dubai is going to slow down and taper off, and then it just goes whoosh again, you know? But
That's every
it's not just. Yeah, it's not just the UAE anymore. It's Saudi, it's Bahrain, it's everywhere. It's just woomph. It's just still going. Yeah.
I think it's that traditionally the consulting offices out in the Middle East region were the smaller offices, and that's why, as Michael said, you get exposed to more, and there's less of you to do the same amount of work, and you sometimes to the main headquarter office you're a bit of an afterthought. So you have to do a bit of everything. You start to go outside of your comfort zone. The role that you were doing, it gets expanded on you. There's no one else to do it, and then by simply being there, you have to sort of sink or swim, and then you get the experience and exposure to those projects. But once you do that, you start building momentum. You get trusted by your employer, and then the next thing you're running the company or in a senior director role. So that's been a sort of big benefit for I think all of us on the call here.
Yeah. I mean, I always say to people that that coming to the Middle East is it's like dog years for your career. One year working in Dubai in the Middle East industry is like 2 or 3 in the UK. I mean, I think you look at the people on this call that are in very, very senior positions, and the reality is that if we'd stayed in the UK, there's a very real chance that we wouldn't be anywhere near the positions we're in today. And it's because when you're in the Middle East, as you say, the pace of life, the pace of work, the pressure, what you're exposed to, it forces you to grow up very, very fast in a work position. And I genuinely don't think I would be in the position I'm in now if it wasn't for coming out here and the experience I've had. And I'll also go back to something that Mike said at the start with his 2-year plan. So many people that you speak to that have been in Dubai 10 years, 13 years, 13 years myself. I was here for 1 year. I've come out, whatever happens, even if myself and my wife hated it, we will stick it out for 1 year. And now, 2 kids and 13 years later, and really I've never really looked back, to be honest, because exactly as John says, it's a really great place to be. It's got its challenges like anywhere. Like I've got 2 young kids here that are kind of like fantastic schools and good opportunities, and the projects just keep coming. So all of us could reel off some amazing jobs. I mean, for me, UAE Pavilion at Expo with Calatrava was a real highlight. But there's any number of 5-star hotels, regional shopping malls, and that you can list. And as well as that, one of the reasons that I came here in the first place was because I wanted to see a different part of the world. And I've done work I've been to India, I don't know how many times. I've been, most of the countries in the GCC. I've been to Iran, I've been to Pakistan. I've got to go to places that I probably never, ever, ever would have gone to if I'd stayed working in the UK, getting the train down to Brighton to do a school project,
And it's
one thing I always find is it's really, really interesting how many different nationalities you end up working with. Yeah. You look around the office, and we did a bit of a talk up here, and it's like, well, we're nudging 50 guys now, but we've got 16 different nationalities. Yeah, and you go into the lunchroom and sit down and have a chat with some people, and people are yabbering away and eating different things and whatnot. It's a great fun. Yeah.
And I imagine that helps you all grow as individuals as well, doesn't it? In terms of actually getting exposed to different cultures, different ways of life, and stuff like that as well. And being able to embrace that, I would say, has always got to be something anybody relocating to the Middle East, whether it be Dubai or another country, is being adaptable, being flexible, most definitely to actually embrace other cultures. I think that's critical.
But if you do miss home, James, or anyone, that there's such a big expat community from all the different communities all over the world. You can find your favorite restaurant from back home, your different foods, different shops to buy different types of groceries, which you might only find in your native country. So if you get homesick, there's always that option there to sort of rekindle. So
and brunch is a good idea as well. There's lots of fun stuff to do at the weekends, going back to the personal stuff. Not that I'm going to skydive when I'm back, but there's a lot of fun things you can do over there as well, isn't there?
Absolutely.
You mentioned
Tell you what,
John.
James, there'd be a queue of people watching to watch you jump out of a plane.
I think you probably want to push me out of one. Yeah, I was going to say, enough of that.
Can we do a quick whip round? Yeah.
Raise up some funds to chuck me out of a plane. Thanks, guys.
One of the positives, Emmy, is that you're never really going to get to be part of developing countries in many parts in the world. You know, I remember when I first moved to Dubai, you know, I think the key thing is that if you look at the world, you're dealing with, you know, if some of the MEP work that people have done in the UK are refurbishments of old listed buildings, or this is developing countries, brand new infrastructure. You know, we've seen now that's happening in Saudi Arabia, it happened in Qatar. There's a wave of brand new environments being created, and, you know, projects and the kind of vision that people have had, and you see that happening in front of you. You wouldn't get to see that in any part of Europe, you know, and be part of that developing a country and actually leaving a legacy, to be fair. And that personally is something I think a lot of people are involved in doing with all of these projects, which is a huge positive. You just wouldn't get that in many other parts of the world than the Middle East.
Yeah, I think that's right. And what's also true is the opportunity for people coming out of the UK with the refurb experience, so in Dubai in particular, is that actually now there's a lot of building stock that's getting to 15, 20 years old that desperately needs refurbishing. And actually that is a skill that is fairly rare on the ground. There aren't that many. At WME, we've done a number of refurbs, and there are people that have done these kind of things, and they're really complicated jobs. They're not easy. And people that have that experience, there is an option, you know, that is a route into this market, because, you know, there's a lot of shopping malls that need tidying up and hotels that need refreshing, and, you know, all of these buildings that are kind of were thrown up in the early 90s now need quite a lot of work. And obviously the worst thing they can do is just rip them all down and start again. So yeah, there's an opportunity at the other side of that coin as well.
Yeah. It is coming through. You can start with my building if you like, you know, if you want.